stuff.
Just
gay stuff.
Podcast.
Oh, I didn't do it properly.
You didn't. We talked about this.
Well, I obviously didn't know. I thought we were going to sing it with the intro part.
No, it doesn't go with the intro part.
Okay, go do it one more time.
No.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Just gay stuff. Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Just Gay Stuff Podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Jess.
And as you can tell by this intro, we are a little bit crazy.
We're trying to do something new and different and fun.
And Lauren fucked it up already.
Nah, it just made it funnier. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Wow.
What do we got this week?
We've got some fun stuff. Well, actually, you know how we've been doing a lot of
We
fun.
say fun stuff every week. Sometimes
I
it's
know.
not fun.
Well, if you let me get into my sentencing, I would say.
Into your sentencing?
Yeah.
Are you going away?
Yes. I've got my Kappa attire out back.
Jeez.
We've been doing a lot of fun episodes recently with Second Date or Ghost.
Second Date or Ghost.
Worst
Am I
First
the
Dates.
Arsehole?
Am I the Arsehole?
Yep.
And today is no exception. We are doing kind of a fun one, but also an educational one.
Okay. Both sides of the coin. I like it.
both sides
I like
of the coin. So if you have been following us for a while, you will know how much we love to talk about education and queer representation.
And history.
And history.
And where we came from.
And how important representation is within the queer space.
So important.
So important. Like we've done episodes on queer TV shows, queer music, artists. I think we did one. Yeah.
Representation, in television and then in movies. All of the important stuff that gives us representation worldwide.
And so for this week, I really wanted to focus for our little nerdy gamer.
The one media that we haven't yet gone to.
Gamer vibe people was queer representation in video games.
Which is such a great episode because it is one of those things that is an important media for a lot of people that still needs representation.
It is. And for those who are in our inner circle would know that you're a gamer.
I am.
And
big old nerd over
like
here.
you've been playing some games recently like Cyberpunk and...
Cyberpunk, I didn't rate it, everyone.
No, you didn't. Cyberpunk. And what's the game you're playing now?
I'm playing Outer Worlds currently.
That's right.
But I have to say, I just finished Prey. And look, I'm going to be honest, I'm very late to the party on a lot of games. It's the same as movies. I'm the same. So
slow to get there.
There are
late bloomer.
Yeah, there are certain games that everyone says you're not a hardcore gamer unless you've played bit, this, and this. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've probably never played those games.
I don't think you could say that you're not a hardcore gamer unless you've played that. That's like, it's art. It's open to interpretation.
No, but some people have that opinion. Some people say, you're not a real gamer unless you've played GoldenEye on Nintendo 64. And I'm going to tell you right now, it was never my vibe.
What's GoldenEye? Is it like a James Bond thing?
It was.
Okay,
it was
cool.
a 007 Nintendo 64 game.
Glad
and
I
it's
got it.
one of the OGs. It's kind of like if you've never played Mario Kart, you can't call yourself a gamer.
Right. So how long have you actually been playing video games for?
I started playing video games in the 90s.
Showing your age, babe.
I'm going to say I was in grade 3.
Really?
Yes. And I went to my best friend's house on the very first time that I went to her house. She showed me the Tomb Raider games and Crash Bandicoot.
And that's when you knew you were gay.
No,
Lara Croft in
I
the...
didn't dig Lara Croft.
in the triangle.
She can keep a triangle titties to herself. No, I played Tomb Raider and I played Crash Bandicoot and I fell in love. And from there,
You've been a nerd ever since.
I have been. I went home and I was like, Mom, Dad, I really want a PlayStation 1. And, we grew up, we didn't have a lot of money. But for a household that didn't have a lot of money, I feel like for myself as a child, I never went without.
No, you were very privileged.
I was very privileged. So my mum then put a message out on her message boards at work that you could do back in the 90s
This
at that
was
time.
before Facebook Marketplace,
It
everyone.
was a long time before Facebook Marketplace. And there was a lady at her work that had a PlayStation 1 for sale. And she was like, yes, you can have this one, X amount of money, blah, blah, blah. So my mum bought it for me. And
Aww.
yeah, I've been a gamer ever since.
That's really cool. Do you know if you have any, or do you know of any queer representation that you have possibly known of, or your first queer representation that you have thought of in a video game?
First queer representation in a video game.
That you know of or saw?
For the very first, I'm going to have to say, which I know is an episode that I've told you I want to delve into later, but The Sims was probably the first game where you could have like same-sex kisses or same-sex marriage and things like that. And I know that was user-based.
That was like old school PC based too,
Yeah,
right?
that was user-based. So that was up to the user to make that representation, not up to the production.
Although we'll get into that in that Sims episode.
Yeah. But other than that, it hasn't been until, I have to say, the last 10 years where there's been some very big changes in the gaming world, where we've seen non-binary characters, we've seen queer characters in general. The Last of Us is a massive one for me. Fallout is one of my favorite games. They gave you dialogue for a companion to get close to that companion in a romantic way. And I played as a female character and my companion was a female.
I actually am interested in where the role of, like, I guess because you said it's made by the same people as Fallout, the companions in your Outer Worlds.
Yeah, well,
where that's
it's
going
not the
to
exact
go.
same people, but the mechanics are the same.
Yeah.
So, yes, that would be... Yeah.
Interesting.
It is very interesting. I don't know. I could go on forever about video games because I love them so much. And I think the one reason that I love them so much is because music used to be a hobby of mine and then it became my job. So then the next thing down the line that I love so much is gaming. So that is my pastime now.
Yeah, I think it's a creative outlet, a way to escape. And like you said, for many queer people who have that user-friendly experience, they're able to experience things in their digital world that they may not necessarily be able to experience in their normal world.
Yeah, and you know, it is a way to escape. We talk about role-playing games, RPGs, where you can literally take on the life of somebody else and you submerge yourself in this world that is not like our world.
Yeah.
And, you know, it gives you this taste of, well, what if it wasn't how it is here? What if it was a bit different? And what if we could do this? It's kind of the same as we immerse ourselves in fandoms of movies, like Lord of the Rings, like Harry Potter, all of those things. I think as humans, we've said before, we are very curious creatures. So we like to
explore.
We like to explore and we like to find that difference. And if we can find that difference, we embrace it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like
sometimes.
It depends on the difference.
It depends on the context.
It's really sad that only in the last 10 years you've noticed representation in video games. Blatant, yeah. So I thought we'd go on a little history wonder back in time and talk about the first queer representation in video games ever.
I'm going to be surprised by
this. And doing a timeline.
And I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to be surprised by this
I was
too.
surprised because I'm not a video games person other than playing the few games that you and I play together as a couple. Video games, not anything else.
Not the other games that couples play.
Well, hopefully our listeners learn or maybe they know of. So if we go back a few years, which really isn't that many years in the span of things, the first ever queer representation that is known in a video game is that of a character named Vivian Pentreath in the 1986 text adventure game Moon Mist.
What's a text adventure game?
I have no idea. I think it's similar to, like, you know how you see on Game Boy where it was just like the text, or like on a computer. I think it was like on an Atari. I think, don't quote me, but I'll have to just double check when we're doing the show notes and stuff. I think it was on an Atari. Okay. And it was like a text.
What was it, like a
adventure?
Like a choose your own
adventure story.
Wow, okay.
Moon Mist is a classic text-based mystery game that casts the player as a young detective. Invited by a friend to the fictional Cornwall castle of Tresillian, sounds like a Game of Thrones thing.
Yeah, it does.
Strange happenings, including ghosts, secret passages, and murder, set the tone for an atmospheric gothic whodunit.
That sounds cool.
The game was targeted towards a younger audience and featured multiple possible storylines based on the player's input at the beginning, such as their favourite colour. This colour path determined which mystery plotline you'd experience, and each path featured a different suspect, motive, and mystery to solve.
Sounds like something I'd want to play now.
Yeah. So who is Vivian Pentreath and Deirdre? Vivian Pentreath is a secondary character, an artist and longtime friend of the victim, Deirdre Hallam. On one of the storylines, The Green Path, Deirdre is revealed to have died under mysterious circumstances before the game begins, and Vivian is heavily involved in the surrounding mystery. What sets Vivian apart and what earned her the recognition as one of gaming's first queer characters is the coded language used in the game to suggest that she and Deirdre were romantically involved.
Oh, that's where we're talking about like queer coded language again. Wow.
In dialogue and descriptive text, Vivian speaks of Deirdre with a tenderness, melancholy, and a depth of emotion that surpasses platonic friendship. For example, Vivian reminisces about Deirdre with phrases such as, "She was my dearest companion. No one ever truly understood her like I did."
Do you think that people outside of the umbrella would have picked up on that language, or do you think it's one of those things where us queries under the umbrella pick up on things a lot more because we have like our nose out for it? You know what I mean?
I definitely think it's more of like that queer coded language. I think possibly people who present themselves as heteronormative and aren't looking for those things.
They don't know how to read between the lines.
No, they don't. Or
like in Rizzoli and Isles, everyone.
Oh, it's so annoying. And maybe they'd be like, "Oh, she was my dearest friend or sister," or something like that.
Really good friends.
Yeah, they're really, really good friends.
You know that you know those two friends that share a grave together after they spent their whole life together, and they were just really good friends.
Really good roommates. While the language remains subtle, likely due to the cultural and social constraints of the 1980s, it strongly implies a romantic connection. The implications are never ridiculed or dismissed in the game, and instead add layers of poignancy and motive to Vivian's character. This delicate inclusion is a significant moment in early gaming history because it portrays a queer character in a serious, emotional, and dignified way.
Yeah, wow.
Were you ready for that one?
I didn't think it would be in the 80s.
Yeah.
I was thinking more 90s, and it would have been something that maybe a game that I played and I never picked up on it because I was a kid.
I feel like when we go through this episode, you might want to be like, "Oh, I want to try out these games
Yeah,
now."
probably.
We're going to the next one. The next mention of queer representation or queer coded representation was that of the character Birdo. So who is Birdo?
I have heard of Birdo before.
And you would know Birdo. You would know, if I showed you a photo, you would know Birdo.
Birdo was from Mario.
Birdo is a reoccurring character in the Mario franchise, first appearing in the 1988 North American release of Super Mario Bros. 2. She is recognizable by her pink skin, red bow, and a snout that shoots eggs at the player. Mm-hmm. Birdo has since become a regular character in spin-offs like Mario Kart, Mario Party, and various sports games.
But why is Birdo a queer character?
Wow. In the original Japanese manual of Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic, the game that was later adapted into Super Mario Bros. 2 in the West, Birdo was referred to as a boy who thinks he is a girl and would rather be called Birdetta.
That's mental to me. Like, I know a lot of the Nintendo games were made in Japan, so obviously they had different names. But it's so funny to think Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic is now Super Mario Bros. 2.
Yeah, gangster.
That's like when we're talking about Australian slang, and it's like, oh, you're a few roos loose up the paddock, just say you're crazy.
Yeah. This statement explicitly identifies Birdo as a transgender character, or at least a character experiencing gender dysphoria. The Japanese text uses gendered language to describe a male character who identifies as female and desires to be addressed with a feminine name.
Wow.
In the English manual of Super Mario Bros. 2, Birdo's gender identity is described as, he thinks he is a girl and he spits eggs from his mouth. He'd rather be called Birdetta, so they kept the trans stuff in. While still presenting a queer-coded identity, this line was considered controversial and unusual for a mainstream Western release at the time.
I bet.
As the franchise evolved, this description was eventually removed or edited out in later localizations and re-releases.
Of course it was.
Effectively erasing her trans-coded origin for many years.
That's because some parent of a child would have had a full-on
conniption
stroke about this one text.
Yeah.
You know how it goes, everyone.
Yeah. Nintendo has never officially confirmed Birdo as a trans woman, but her early description in manuals, particularly her reference for being called Birdetta and identifying as a female, has made her an enduring symbol of queer visibility in gaming.
I suppose, though, if you weren't one of those people that had the very first release of the game and all these re-releases and everything for Western culture, you would never know that because that was written out.
Yeah. That's really sad, isn't it?
It is really sad because I can't sit here and you can't sit here and go, oh, I knew that about that person or I knew that about that character, because we didn't, because we didn't have the ability to.
I had no idea. In researching this episode, I learned so much about video games, and I even said to you the other day, I was like, oh, I didn't realize how many like trans characters or queer characters or non-binary characters are in video games.
I know there's a lot more lately, but starting in the 80s, this is a lot.
In later games, Birdo is consistently presented as female. She's often portrayed with stereotypical feminine traits. In Mario Tennis 2000s, Birdo is paired romantically with Yoshi, suggesting a normative heterosexual relationship, but still canonically refers to her as female, which could be interpreted as validation of her gender identity.
But if we never knew that she was male to female, we wouldn't know that that was queer representation.
No. Despite Nintendo's silence or ambiguity over the years, queer players and critics have reclaimed Birdo as a symbol of early transgender representation, or at least a significant moment of gender nonconformity in gaming history.
Blows my mind.
It's really cool.
It is.
I enjoyed it.
I mean, the thing is, if Birdo as a character was male to female trans, well, I've always seen Birdo as a girl.
Yeah.
So I see you for who you really are, Birdo.
Yeah, we see you, Birdo.
We see you, Birdo.
Moving on now to the next game in the history timeline of queer representation. And that is the 1989 game, Caper in the Castro.
Wow, there's a lot of 80s games.
Yeah. Have you heard of that game?
No.
I think a lot of these games are also computer-based other than the Nintendo Super Mario Brothers.
I didn't play a lot of computer games. Even now, I don't play computer games.
No, you're
console.
PS4. 5.
Console.
Well, Caper in the Castro is widely regarded as the first explicitly LGBTQIA plus video game.
Explicit. You can't play it unless you're queer. In the 80s, then everyone who's buying this game, gay.
Lesbian. No, I'm just kidding. Anyone can play it. Caper in the Castro is a point-and-click mystery adventure game created by CM Ralph. What's point-and-click?
Point and click's like computer.
Oh, like computer,
so
like your mouse.
You know how you told me you played Putt-Putt?
Yeah.
That's a point and click game. Because you're not physically moving, you're clicking to where where you want him to drive
Same as Dora the Explorer.
Yeah, you love Dora the Explorer.
I do.
You play it every night.
I do. So CM Ralph was a queer woman developer and activist. Released in 1989, it was developed using Macintosh HyperCard, a precursor to modern hypermedia systems. It's also notable for being one of the earliest examples of queer indie game development.
Oh, because the developer was a queer woman.
Yeah. This is the best. And I told you the character's name, and someone better dress up as this for Halloween. Because
no one's going to know.
Well, maybe I'll dress up as it.
Okay. Well, I don't know what she looked like, so.
Neither.
So you can just make it up.
Yeah.
I'm this person.
The game features Tracker McDyke.
At your service.
A lesbian private investigator in San Francisco's Castro district, an area known for its significance to the LGBTQIA plus community.
Wow.
The plot centers around her search for her missing friend.
Friend or lover.
Tessie LaFemme. What a drag. I was going to say what a drag name, but
it is a drag queen.
A drag queen and a fellow community member. The characters, dialogue, and setting are all explicitly queer, not coded or implied, which was groundbreaking for the time. This is still the 80s,
1989. Wow.
So we're getting into the 90s.
This is like after the AIDS movement.
Well, I get into that.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking how prominent a game like that would be considering we've just gone through the AIDS crisis.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
continue.
Caper in the Castro was distributed as a freeware via the LGBTQIA plus bulletin board systems, which were early online communities.
Wow. So it's kind of like, here, girls, play this game.
Yeah.
It's a dykey game. You can play it.
Yeah.
You have to be part of the bulletin board system to get your hands on it. And it was free. Wow.
It was free. So Ralph made the game charityware. She encouraged players to donate to the AIDS charities instead of paying for the game.
Wow.
This was during the height of the AIDS crisis, and it tied queer gaming directly to activism.
Wow, that's so special.
Yeah.
It's something that you wouldn't have thought of. Like, for me, as a person sitting here that loves games in 2025, thinking, oh, a queer person actually developed a queer game in the late 80s and asked for it to
donate the money of playing to the AIDS crisis.
Yeah, wow.
What a legend.
Yeah.
A heterosexual friendly version
Watch out.
titled Murder on Main Street was later released commercially by Heiser Software with all queer content removed. reflecting the pressures and limits of commercial game publishing at the time. Tell us how you really feel, Jess.
I am.
It was lost to history for decades until a copy was rediscovered and preserved by the LGBTQIA+ Video Game Archive and the Internet Archive, where you can now play it in browser.
Oh, everyone, you can play the game now.
You know the game I showed you last night? That's that game.
What game you showed me?
You know last night when I was like, this is the game I'm writing about
No.
on my laptop? Do you not remember?
No.
Oh, that's that game.
Did you show me?
Yeah.
Oh. I was clearly present.
Listening. C.M. Ralph's work paved the way for queer indie developers and was one of the earliest examples of video games being used as a platform for representation, storytelling, and activism.
Activism, like a video game for activism. That's so good.
That's so cool.
Because, you know, we can use games for education. We can, like, did you play maths games when you were a kid?
No, I suck at maths, but yes.
There was, I remember specifically.
Mathletics.
No, it wasn't mathletics.
Oh, no.
My mum bought this book and it was on floppy disk. And it was games, but it helped you like add and multiply, and you did a bunch of that. Maybe that's why I'm good at maths.
Maybe that's why I suck. I didn't play those games.
Well, I'm not good,
Yes,
but
you
I'm
are.
good.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I failed maths B, but I kicked ass at maths A.
You didn't play Monopoly Maths. It's fine.
No, but I did kick ass at Monopoly today.
Lucky you. Well, sticking in the year 1989, we are now talking about the game The Circuit's Edge. Developed by Westwood Associates and published by Infocom, Circuit's Edge is a cyberpunk interactive fiction game with RPG elements.
Okay.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
It
Don't
is-
talk to me about Cyberpunk. I'm disappointed.
It is based on George Alex Effinger's Marid Audran novels, particularly When Gravity Fails. The game stands out as one of the first to feature both a trans character and a gay character in a narrative context, especially in a commercially released title.
Oh, okay. So this one was commercially released. That's cool.
Set in a futuristic, gritty, and Middle East-inspired city known as the Boudin, this cyberpunk RPG immerses players in a world teeming with crime, advanced technology, and shifting identities. Blending text-based commands with point-and-click interface elements, the game puts you in the shoes of Marid Adran, a savvy street investigator who must navigate the city's dark underbelly, uncovering secrets and surviving amidst rampant corruption and intrigue.
I have to just point out something. Every game that you've said so far, except for Birdo in Mario Brothers, has been street, PI, undercover detective. It kind of gives you that feeling that
Secrecy.
we were still underground, you
Yeah.
know? It wasn't that we could just be, even in a game that's make-believe, we couldn't just be,
I
you
know, it's really sad, isn't it? Circuit's Edge features one of the earliest explicitly trans characters in video game history. Yasmin, a trans woman originally from the Marid Audran novels. Yasmin is portrayed with dignity, complexity, and respect, far from being a punchline or stereotype.
Well, that's good. That kind of evens out what I was saying before.
Yeah. She has her own backstory, motivations, and relationships, making her representation meaningful rather than tokenistic.
That's good.
I like that word, tokenistic, because even when we did our TV shows and movies and music, you saw the tokenism.
The token gay guy, you know,
Yeah.
the token person of color in the friend group.
Yeah. Remarkably progressive for its time. The game avoids sensationalizing her gender identity. Additionally, Circuit's Edge includes gay male characters who exist openly within the richly textured world of the Boudin, a futuristic city that embraces sex work, body modification, and diverse sexual identities. These characters are treated as integral parts of the narrative rather than sidelined or mocked, highlighting the game's early and thoughtful approach to queer representation.
That's kind of the same as modern day cyberpunk.
Kinda.
Because you can create your own character on that game and you can be a trans character on that game. You completely build yourself from the ground up in whichever way you want. It is good for that. It is good for character editing and stuff.
Yeah.
The gameplay is just not for me. It's too much.
Yeah.
And I can tell I'm getting old because a lot of reds and blues gives me a headache.
I think what's interesting about this game also, it's like a part of the Middle East in a place
Yeah.
where like queer representation and trans representation is very like
Still
stilted.
underground. Even though in certain aspects like Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv, yeah. At a time when LGBTQIA plus representation in video games was either non-existent or riddled with harmful stereotypes, Circuit's Edge stood out for its nuanced and inclusive portrayal of queer characters. It actively avoided the tropes of the era, such as framing queerness as villainous or comedic, and instead presented a world mirroring the post-gender, post-sexuality society found in George Alec F. Finger's novels, where characters were defined by their complexity, not just their identity. Though Circuit's Edge wasn't a commercial hit, its cultural legacy endures. It is now frequently cited in academic and queer gaming literature as a groundbreaking title that paved the way for more authentic queer representation in gaming.
Wow, it's crazy because I think of myself as, like, I'm not a seasoned gamer in this way. Like, I don't know where everything came from, not like kind of like in the music section of my life. But I'd like to think that I knew a bit more about these things. And so I think this episode is exactly
what you need.
Why we do this, you know?
It's interesting because you learn things at the same time that you had no idea about.
I saw like how in this game they were staying away from the stereotypes, and I guess they were trying to give people a world where everything was as you could be, as opposed to this is the world we live in and this is how it is and fight through it. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we do that every day.
We do, yeah. It was a little...
It's not a game.
It was a little escape.
Let's put it out there.
Well, jumping into 1992.
I was one.
We've skipped a few years now. I was not born yet. I born the following year.
I born the following year.
I was born the following year. The game Gayblade, gay's in the title.
Love it.
Is widely considered one of the earliest and most explicitly queer video games ever created. Developed by Ryan Best, a gay programmer and artist, this satirical dungeon-crawling RPG puts queer identity at the very centre of its story. Gayblade was a bold act of digital rebellion. At a time when the AIDS crisis was devastating the LGBTQIA+ community and queer people were under attack from politicians and the media, Gayblade dared to fight back, literally and figuratively. The game didn't just include queer characters, it centered them and allowed players to literally fight homophobia as the literal enemy.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But
it represents one of the earliest forms of queer resistance through interactive media.
I feel like it's one thing to create a game like that, but then to actually get people to play it is the next stage of like the battle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that one was interesting. I didn't have a lot of information, but I found it interesting that you see a lot of these things come from queer developers or queer artists.
Well, I suppose that's their creative outlet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in their own lives, maybe they can't be themselves. So they're creating this world where they can, you know, it's all about that.
Yeah. I'm sure there's like a few more in between, but an honourable mention in 1997 is the game Saga Frontier.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it?
No.
Neither. Saga Frontier was one of the first mainstream Japanese RPGs to feature an explicitly queer-coded female protagonist with a narrative arc that hints strongly at a lesbian identity. Travelling now beyond that to the 2000s, 2014 to be exact, Dragon Age Inquisition. I find it really interesting, actually, that we went from like 1997, and I'm sure there's more queer representation in the 2000s, but the information that I found was like specifically 2014. So from 1997 to 2014.
But then I'm not surprised by that.
You're not?
No, because I feel like in the late 90s and in the 90s in general, you're still fighting that battle of being seen and representation in general. And then only in the 2000s did we really start to open our eyes a little bit to the fact that, well, the world is a bit more inclusive and these people do exist, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised by that.
Well, that's true.
I'm more surprised that there were games pre-1990.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, 2014, Dragon Age Inquisition debuts Krem, a cis-voiced trans man, marking one of the first respectful trans representations in AAA gaming. I didn't know what AAA gaming meant, and I asked you, and
you
were
asked
like,
me,
yeah,
and I was
asked
like,
you.
I've never heard of AAA
I
gaming.
Googled it. Basically what it means is like the games that you're playing now, like the high-rated mainstream games.
High class, high funded.
High funded.
Okay, well, that's pretty good then.
Yeah. Krem is one of the first openly trans characters in a major AAA video game to be portrayed with genuine respect, nuance, and depth. Rather than being reduced to a stereotype or used as a punchline, Krem is presented as a fully developed character, a loyal soldier, a capable leader, and a cherished member of his mercenary company, the Chargers. His gender identity is not the focus of his character, but is instead revealed naturally through a thoughtful character-driven conversation between the player and Iron Bull, the Chargers' leader. This moment exemplifies how meaningful representation can be woven seamlessly into storytelling without resorting to tokenism.
Because it's not like a main focus, but It is and it isn't.
Yeah. Do you know what I love about that and about that story? It's like when people go, oh my God, are you gay? Hi, your name's Jess and I'm gay. Like, that's not your whole personality.
Yeah. Like there's more interesting things about you than your sexuality.
So they kind of place the sexuality and the gender not being at the forefront. It just was.
Oh, it was like a secondary. It was
a secondary
part.
notion. It wasn't part of the character.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I meant.
It's good because, I mean, that's what people identify with because we aren't our sexuality.
No.
Our sexuality is just a little part of a big part of us. You know what I mean?
A little speck of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, what you said was representation, obviously, from the last 10 years that you know. Mm-hmm. So going from 2015 onwards, queer representation in gaming saw a marked increase in authenticity, depth and visibility, especially in both AAA and indie titles. Mm-hmm. I think you might know this game, Overwatch.
Yeah, I know Overwatch. I've never played it, but I know of it.
Blizzard's team-based shooter made headlines in 2016 when Tracer, one of its flagship characters, was confirmed as gay through an official comic that showed her in a loving relationship with her girlfriend Emily.
That's cute.
This moment was significant not only for visibility in a global franchise, but also for portraying queerness as part of everyday life rather than a dramatic plot point.
True.
In 2023, we jumped a few years.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
That's a big jump. Overwatch continued this trajectory by confirming Farah as a lesbian, with fans and critics alike praising the quiet confidence and authenticity of her representation, focusing on her heritage, personality and queerness without stereotype. On the indie scene, Dream Daddy, what a kinky name.
Never heard of that one either.
Broke new ground as a visual novel dating sim where players take on the role of a dad romancing other dads.
Oh.
Celebrating gay fatherhood and nuanced storytelling in a wholesome, heartfelt setting.
Wow.
That's like The Sims.
I didn't know where that was going, to be honest.
That's like The Sims for gay dads. I'm obsessed. I'm going to have to play that game. Following that, Hard Coded 2018 emerged as a daring and sincere indie title focused on trans women.
Wow.
The game blended cyberpunk aesthetics with erotic visual novel elements, garnering praise for its honest and affirming portrayal of trans identities, sexuality, and community, highlighting that queer stories can be both intimate and joyful. Together, these games reflect a turning point in gaming history where queerness is no longer hidden or coded, but embraced and explored in multifaceted ways.
Wow, yeah. I haven't played those games at all. I've heard of Overwatch, but I've never played it. And what I want to say about Overwatch is I do know that it was kind of like, not as big as Fortnite, but it was kind of like that for a big gaming community. And I know that a lot of LGBT people are part of gaming communities because I feel like the gaming community is kind of a sideline community.
It's a little bit of queer community.
Well, we know what it's like to not be norm, you know?
Yeah,
I
that's
feel
true.
like it's still one of those
it's that
marginalized
little,
groups,
yeah.
You know? You're considered the nerd, you're considered not sociable, you know? So I feel like when you are queer and you are in that community, you're kind of like doubled down upon.
Again, it's like what we said, it's that outlet, that release to explore yourself and your own sexuality or identity via a world that's not going to judge you.
And to exist in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I know you know this one because you mentioned it at the start of the episode. And we watched, I didn't watch the TV show, but you did.
I watched the TV show.
And told me to watch it. That a queer person also plays the main character, and I am, of course, talking about The Last of Us Part 2.
Well, and Part 1.
And Part 1, yeah.
So I think anyone who has watched the TV show, if you are somewhat a gamer and you haven't played The Last of Us, it is definitely worth playing. I understand why it says The Last of Us Part 2 because in Part 1 you don't really get into...
You don't learn.
Ellie's sexuality. But in Part 2, there's two things here, and you'll probably touch on this. But from the gaming point of view, we have Ellie, who, of course, has a love interest in Dina, who is a openly bisexual character because she was with a man and now she's with Ellie.
Who, Dina?
Dina's bisexual, yeah. And then we have Lev, who becomes a supporting character in the game who is a trans man. And I think it was done well in the games because the main character kind of stands up for Lev in a really, really nice way. But, you know, he still has his shortcomings and he still gets discriminated against, which is crazy because you're in a wasteland and aren't zombies the main thing that's attacking you? Like, why are you caring about who loves who and who wants to identify as who? Like,
it's a bit of the real world, especially for some of our American friends at
100%,
the moment. So.
100%. I have said this a million times and I'll say it again, but we live in a world where there's so much devastation, like in this video game, and people are more concerned about who's loving who rather than the fact that somewhere we're killing each other.
Yeah.
Like, why? What?
It baffles you, hey?
I'm just like, wow, first world problems. Like,
well, you did hit it on the head, but for this episode, we are, of course, talking about The Last of Us Part 2.
Because that's where the sexuality aspect really comes in. You see a lot of the relationship characteristics and you see Ellie's relationship unfold.
So it centers on Ellie, a lesbian protagonist whose queerness is not a side note but integral to her emotional journey.
Yeah.
Her relationship with Dina is depicted with nuanced depth and care, featuring both tender, joyful moments and scenes of shared trauma that anchor their romance as central to the narrative, not optional or backgrounded.
Well, a lot of the game is about their love story. And, you know, I would be lying if I said that the queer aspect wasn't a part that I loved about the game. It's definitely an integral part of the game. But the way that the story is developed and the gameplay and the mechanics and...
You do like that game, and you told me that you would have to play it before I can watch the TV shows.
I think if you're going to watch the show, the game has so much more integrity and so much more meat on the bone than you can put in 8 episodes on a TV show.
Well, and they just finished filming the second season.
The second season's out.
Oh.
Yeah, it's out.
Well, you should have played The Last of Us instead of Outer Worlds.
Well, yeah, but I refused to watch the second season until Lauren's played the first game.
Yeah. Right. Well, like you said, the game also introduces Lev, a trans-masculine teenager, navigating his identity within a hostile cult-like community. His story, voiced authentically by a trans actor, Ian Alexander, parallels real-world experiences of rejection and resilience and is portrayed with compassion, realism, and emotional depth. That's cool. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I didn't know that it was a real trans voice actor, but that's very good to know.
Lev is not defined solely by his trans identity. He is brave, capable, and vital to the plot, with his bond to his sister, Yara, reinforcing themes of chosen family and acceptance. Chosen family.
Yeah.
Widely praised by the LGBTQIA+ players and critics despite backlash. The Last of Us Part 2 broke new ground in mainstream gaming by presenting complex queer characters free from tokenism or tragedy. It earned multiple Game of the Year awards and remains a landmark in inclusive storytelling, cementing its legacy through the emotional rich portrayals of Ellie, Dina, and Lev.
The other thing I want to just add is the character of Abby, which we see in the second game, not the first game. Visually has very masculine features.
Right.
And it was another part of the game that a lot of heteronorm people wanted to pull her apart and go, well, why did they make her so muscular? Why did they make her so masculine? It's just like, because women like this do exist and she's not queer.
Also,
so stereotypically, people might say she looks like a lesbian, but she's not queer. These people do exist. We still need to represent these people.
I find that so funny in just what you were saying. There's representation in the film Encanto. And I know from Disney, which I find is so ironically hilarious, was that they made 2 characters. So the older sister was this big, stocky, more masculine sister, whereas the middle sister was the pretty one and did all the flowers. And Disney did it thinking that all the little girls were going to want to be like the pretty one. No, sales went up for Louisa because they all wanted to be the strong, independent women.
Probably because they've been told their whole life that they can't be that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So I just found that so wonderful.
Yeah, good.
All right.
Oh, Square Enix makes great games.
Oh, so, well, I think I've played this game. I don't know.
This is one of the games people say you are not a real gamer unless you've played this game, and I've never played this game.
I have.
Wow, what's that saying?
That I'm a real gamer, apparently.
And I am not.
In Final Fantasy VII Remake 2021, Square Enix reimagined classic scenes with a more inclusive lens. Notably, the iconic Wall Market drag sequence,
Ooh.
originally played for laughs in the 1997 version, the remake reframes this moment with greater celebration and respect for gender fluidity. Cloud's transformation is presented with flair, style, and a sense of empowerment, accompanied by dialogue that leans into camp without mocking queerness, marking a significant shift toward LGBTQIA+ inclusivity in the major franchises.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've never played a Final Fantasy, but it's one of those games.
You've never played any Final Fantasies?
I played an introduction. I do have a Final Fantasy game. I played like the first 10 minutes and then
Did you get bored of it?
No, I just didn't play any more than that.
Fair. That's all right. You only just restarted playing this game now after what? How many years? 5 years?
Yeah, it's been 5 years since I picked it up.
Well, we're getting towards the end of the episode now and looking ahead to the year that we're in now, 2025.
2025.
Ooh. One of the most notable queer representation is the character of Link in The Legend of Zelda.
Is Link gay?
No.
Okay, never mind.
Whilst Nintendo has never explicitly identified Link as being non-binary, Link has long been perceived by fans as gender ambiguous or a non-binary figure. An interpretation that gained even more traction by 2025.
Why do they think this though?
Well, throughout the franchise's evolution, Link's appearance has grown increasingly androgynous, with softer facial features, slender builds, and clothing that blurs traditional gender lines. Developers have commented on their intent to make Link a blank slate.
That's cool.
For players to project onto, which has allowed many queer gamers, especially non-binary and gender non-conforming individuals, to see themselves in the character. This design philosophy, paired with the player's ability to rename Link and interpret his persona, fosters a sense of inclusivity rarely seen in major franchises. In fan communities and critical discussions alike, Link is now widely embraced as a queer-coded or non-binary icon, representing the power of ambiguity and player connection in shaping identity in games.
I have played Legend of Zelda.
On what?
64. So I have not played the recent games.
I've played on Game Boy.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
A long time ago.
Yeah, I was like, when was the last time you picked up a Game Boy, Lauren?
A long time.
But I can see how they have given Link that platform, I suppose. And I find a lot in the Nintendo games where they are developed by Japanese developers, I feel like there is a lot of gender fluidity there, like because they allow it to be there.
I also find that interesting because it depends on the people that are making it or the developers or the people playing it. I think even in a show that your mother and I were watching last night, you know, it was from Oriental people that said, oh, well, what if your son suddenly wears a skirt? And they weren't happy about that. So I find it interesting that Japanese
through different culture, they still allow this.
Yeah, exactly.
But then if you are queer and this is your creative outlet and you're making games for people, you're probably making games for people like you that need that outlet.
And like you said, from the Link stuff and from way back with Super Mario Brothers, it was a Japanese game with a transcoded character. So
that's it. And I find that a lot.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode.
I did. It was an eye-opener.
Did you learn so much?
I did. I think the biggest thing that got me was representation in the 80s.
Yeah, me too. I was very surprised.
And I'd love to know what's the percentage of people that were gaming in the 80s versus the percentage of the population now.
Yeah, we might have to do some little statistic research.
I would love
to find
know.
out.
I would think that there is a very high queer gaming population. I wonder what the queer gaming population was then.
Like back
now.
in the 80s?
Yeah.
Or especially when the internet wasn't as like prominent or it was just starting to come up. Obviously, there's a lot more gaming now because the world is
so
open to
widely
possibility.
accessible.
Yeah. It's crazy. Well, there you have it. That's a timeline of queer representation in video games.
There is a couple of mentions that I want to make.
Yeah.
Aloy in the Horizon games.
Okay.
She, I guess, was portrayed as someone who could be very queer, but it was never explicitly spoken about. But I find her to be one of those characters that, especially for female representation, we're seeing a lot of female-led games that aren't just Lara Croft in Tomb Raider, you know, who was overly sexualized from the get-go. The other one I want to mention is there's this range of story-based games called Life is Strange, and there's a few different ones, but they all feature around the possibility of your character being a queer character.
Oh, that's cool.
In the first 2 games, you're a girl named Sam, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. But you are desperately in love with this girl and you feel like you're alone, you have a diary. It's all of those like teen angst things, but it's focused on the fact that she's queer. And then in the next Life is Strange game, True Colors, which was amazing, can I say, it is kind of user-based because you can choose your own adventure in that way. But I chose for my character, who we all start with the same character, to be queer, and it's just accepted in the game and no one bats an eye. And it's kind of nice to, like we said before, you're creating this world where you can exist without judgment and without the discrimination, which is amazing. That's what gaming should be about. And it makes me really sad when I see comments like, The Last of Us 2 would have been amazing if it wasn't for all the lesbians. And I'm just like, who cares? It's a great game and the story is there to like get emotion out of you, and that's exactly what it did. So,
and all those people saying that are clearly watching lesbian porn, so shut up.
I was thinking the other day, this is completely irrelevant to gaming, but we talk about the Matildas all the time because represent soccer is an amazing queer inclusive sport, as is every sport and as it should be. But when you see the Matildas getting engaged to their partners and it's a queer engagement, you see all these people go off in the comments like, ooh, carpet munchers. And I thought of something today. I was like, all of these men writing, ew, carpet munchers. I'm like, if you're not gay yourself, you are also a carpet muncher.
Yeah, dickhead.
So why are you spitting that shit at us? So
because they are jealous that women can carpet munch better than they can.
Yes, that is 100% true.
That is what it is. Well, moving on from that.
That
little weird ending tidbit.
Lauren, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode that you brought to this little gamer in my heart. You did a very good job and I learned a lot.
How many of these games are you going to try and want to play?
Probably
a few?
No, probably none of them.
Oh, okay.
I'm just happy that they exist, and I'm happy that they have allowed other people like us to exist in a time where we didn't think we could. So.
Yeah. Well, if any of our listeners know of any other queer representation,
I'm sure there's heaps
in games, please leave us comments.
There's a few lately.
I'm sure there's a few.
I want to say Borderlands, but I can't remember, so I won't say Borderlands. But
or did any of these games surprise you, or did you already know them? Let us know also in comments or write to us at justgaystuffpodcast@gmail.com.
And until next week,
I guess you better remember to
stay gay, motherfuckers!